Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you have been here many nights before, or you are finding this quiet corner for the first time, this is a gentle place to slow down, learn something simple and real, and let the day loosen its hold little by little. Tonight, we are beginning with an onion. It may be sitting on a kitchen counter, wrapped in a thin brown skin, round and quiet in the hand. It does not move. It does not make a sound. It seems like one of the most ordinary foods in the world. And yet, the moment a knife cuts through it, the onion begins to change. The dry outer skin gives way. The pale inner layers split open. A sharp smell rises from the cutting board. And within a few seconds, the eyes may begin to sting. Then the tears come. That small reaction is so familiar that it can feel almost too ordinary to question. Many people simply say that onions make them cry, as if the onion were full of tears already. But the truth is more interesting than that. An onion is not just releasing a smell that was waiting inside. It is making a new chemical mixture at the moment it is damaged. The knife breaks open tiny plant cells, and ingredients that were kept apart inside the onion are suddenly allowed to meet. One group of ingredients contains sulfur, the same basic element that helps give garlic, leeks, chives, and shallots their strong smell. Another ingredient is an enzyme. An enzyme is a tiny biological tool that helps a chemical reaction happen faster. Inside an uncut onion, these parts are stored in different places. Once the cells are crushed, sliced, or chopped, they mix. A chain reaction begins. One of the products is a small airborne molecule called propanethyl S-oxide. It belongs to a tear-making substance often called the onion's lacrimatory factor. Lacrimatory simply means that it causes tears. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe, and if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find this calm corner of science, one sleepy listener at a time. That tear-making molecule is light enough to drift away from the cut onion. It rises through the air above the cutting board. It reaches the wet surface of the eye. The eye is covered by a thin layer of fluid, and when the molecule touches that surface, it can irritate the nerves there. The body responds by making tears. The tears help dilute the irritant and wash it away. So the onion is not really attacking with intention. It has no plan, no feeling, and no choice. But its tissues are built in a way that turns damage into defense. The onion's scientific name is Allium cepa. It belongs to the same larger plant group as garlic, Allium sativum, and to milder relatives such as leeks and chives. These plants are famous for their strong flavors because their cells are rich in sulfur chemistry. To humans, that chemistry becomes seasoning. To insects, fungi, and small animals in the soil, it can be a warning. That is part of what makes the onion so strange. The same system that makes a cook blink over a cutting board may also help protect the plant's stored food while it is still growing underground. A whole onion is not a fruit like an apple. It is not a root like a carrot. It is a bulb, a compact storage organ made from layers of swollen leaf bases. Those layers hold water, sugars, and other stored materials that the plant can use later. The papery outside helps protect the softer parts within. The flat, firm base at the bottom is the short stem, where roots can grow downward and leaves can grow upward. For the plant, the bulb is a way to survive time. It can store energy through a difficult season then use that stored energy to grow again. That makes the bulb valuable. It is moist. It is full of useful material. It is hidden in soil, where many other living things are also searching for food. So the onion carries its defense close to its stored energy. Not as a wall of thorns, not as a hard shell like a nut, but as a quiet chemical system waiting inside its own cells. A kitchen knife reveals it in seconds. The first tear is only the most visible clue. Beneath that sting is a layered plant body, built for storage, protection, and regrowth. And once the onion is understood as a living bulb instead of a simple round vegetable, its sharpness begins to make much more sense. Peeling away the dry outside of an onion reveals the first part of its survival design. That papery covering is called a tunic. It is thin enough to flake under a fingertip, but it helps slow water loss from the softer layers inside. It also gives the bulb a small amount of protection from scrapes, bruises, and the rough movement of soil. On a yellow onion, the tunic may look golden brown. On a red onion, it can be purple-red, with darker pigment near the surface. On a white onion, it may be pale and almost silvery. The color changes, but the job is similar. The tunic is the onion's dry outer wrapper, formed from older leaf bases that have lost much of their moisture. Inside that wrapper, the onion becomes heavier, wetter, and more alive. The pale rings that appear when an onion is sliced are modified leaves. They are leaf bases that have swollen into thick storage layers. Each one holds water, sugars, and dissolved minerals inside thousands of tiny cells. A fresh onion is mostly water by weight, which is why it feels firm and cool when cut. That water is held inside the fleshy scales, the proper name for the onion's thick inner layers. The rings look simple on a cutting board, but they are the plant's stored supply. During growth, green leaves above the soil capture sunlight. Through photosynthesis, those leaves use light, carbon dioxide from the air, and water from the roots to build sugars. Some of that sugar is used right away. Some is moved downward into the bulb. There it can be stored as carbohydrates, a word for energy-rich molecules made from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The onion keeps these reserves close together, packed in layered tissue around a very short stem. That short stem sits at the bottom of the bulb. It is the firm, flat disc that can be seen when the root end is trimmed. This part is called the basal plate. The basal plate is easy to overlook because it is small, but it is one of the most important parts of the onion body. Roots grow from its lower side into the soil. Leaves grow from its upper side into the air. The fleshy layers attach around it, like stored pages arranged around a tiny center. When an onion is planted instead of eaten, the basal plate can become active again. Small roots push downward first, searching for water and minerals. Green shoots rise upward, using the stored food inside the bulb to begin new growth before the plant can make enough fresh sugar from sunlight. This is one reason the onion is so useful to the plant. It can carry energy through a period when growth is slow. Cold, drought, darkness underground, or the end of a growing season can interrupt life above the soil. The bulb holds enough stored material to start again when conditions improve. Onions are usually biennial plants. Biennial means that their natural life cycle takes 2 growing seasons. During the first season, an onion grows leaves and builds its bulb. If a farmer harvests it then, the onion becomes food. if it stays in the ground, or if a saved bulb is planted again, the plant can use its stored energy during the second season. A tall flower stalk may rise from the center. At the top, the onion can produce a rounded cluster of small white or pale flowers. Those flowers can form seeds, and the plant's stored energy has been turned into the next generation. The kitchen onion is usually taken before that second-year flowering is complete. That timing matters. The bulb is harvested when its storage layers are full, while the plant is still holding much of its reserve in a compact, edible form. This makes the onion feel ordinary because people meet it in kitchens, markets, soups, sauces, and sandwiches. Its actual structure belongs to a plant strategy. A bulb is a quiet package of water and energy. It is built from leaves, tied to a compressed stem, and prepared to send roots and shoots back into the world. A structure like that is valuable underground. Many organisms in soil can detect moisture, sugars, and living tissue. A stored bulb can feed more than the plant that made it. In the soil around a bulb, life is close, active, and hungry. A spoonful of healthy garden soil can hold large numbers of bacteria, fungal threads, tiny animals, and microscopic feeders. Some break down dead leaves. Some recycle minerals. Some live around roots in helpful ways. Others feed on living plant tissue when they find a soft place to enter. An onion bulb is a rich target because it contains moisture, stored carbohydrates, minerals, and living cells. The fleshy layers are built to carry the plant through time, so they hold the kind of material that many organisms can use. A larva tunneling through the soil does not need to understand the onion's life cycle. A fungus growing through damp ground does not need to know that the bulb may flower in its second year. To them, soft plant tissue is an opening. Moisture helps microbes grow. Sugar provides energy. A wound gives small organisms a way in. This problem is shared by many underground storage organs. A garlic bulb stores energy in separate cloves. A tulip bulb stores enough food to send up spring leaves and a flower after winter. A potato tuber is a swollen underground stem packed with starch. A carrot is a thickened root that stores sugars and other reserves before flowering. Each one solves the same basic challenge in its own way. Stored food must remain usable long enough for the plant to survive and reproduce. Animals can defend food by moving, hiding it, guarding it, or leaving when danger comes near. Plants live by a different set of limits. Their roots hold them in place. Their leaves must stay open to light. Their stems and bulbs cannot pull away from a biting insect or a spreading patch of fungus. Because plants are fixed in one place, many of their defenses are built into their bodies. Some make bitter-tasting compounds. Some grow tough skins, woody bark, hairs, spines, or waxy coatings. Milkweed releases a sticky white latex when damaged. Pines and spruces produce resin that can trap insects and seal wounds. Potatoes can form bitter glycoalkaloids, especially in green or damaged tissue. Mustard plants make sharp chemicals that help give mustard and wasabi their bite. The onion belongs to this wider world of plant defense, but its protection is closely tied to sulfur chemistry. Sulfur is a real chemical element, found in soil minerals and taken up by plant roots. Inside allium plants, sulfur becomes part of compounds that can change quickly when tissue is injured. While the onion is whole, many of the important ingredients stay separated inside cell compartments. A cell compartment is like a tiny internal room, with membranes helping keep one chemical away from another. This matters because the strongest reaction does not need to happen all the time. The onion can keep its living tissue stable while it grows. Then, when cells are crushed by chewing, cutting, insects, or disease damage, those separated materials spill together. That design is efficient. The plant stores a quiet chemical system inside its own body. Damage turns the system on. For a small animal feeding at the bulb, sharp taste and irritation can make the meal less appealing. For some microbes, onion compounds may slow growth or disturb normal cell processes. The protection is limited because onions can still rot, mold, sprout too early, or be eaten by pests. Yet the chemistry gives the bulb another layer of defense beyond its papery skin. That makes the tear reaction feel less like a kitchen accident. The sting rising from a chopped onion is connected to an old plant problem: how to protect a package of stored energy while staying rooted in one place. The onion's answer is patient and hidden. It keeps the most reactive parts apart until damage breaks the boundaries. At the moment those boundaries open, the quiet bulb becomes chemically active. A clean cut through onion tissue gives that hidden activity a path. Under a microscope, the pale flesh of an onion is made of plant cells packed tightly together, each one surrounded by a thin wall. Those cells are far too small to see from the counter. Yet every slice of the knife opens thousands of them at once. Juice spreads across the cut surface. Broken cell walls release material that had been held in separate places. The onion's chemical defense begins with sulfur-containing amino acid derivatives. An amino acid is a small building block that living things use in many ways, including the making of proteins. In onions and their relatives, some of these small molecules carry sulfur, the same element that helps give garlic and leeks their strong character. While the onion is whole, these sulfur-rich compounds remain stored away from a key enzyme called allinase. Allinase is a reaction helper. It does not become part of the final tear-making molecule. It helps the first step happen quickly after damage. The moment the knife crushes enough cells, allinase comes into contact with the sulfur-containing compounds. The reaction begins in the wet surface of the fresh cut. Within seconds, new unstable chemicals form. Among them are sulfenic acids. A sulfenic acid is a short-lived sulfur compound, meaning it does not stay in that form for very long. It quickly changes into something else. In garlic, related chemistry can lead toward allicin, the famous sharp compound that appears when a clove is crushed. In the onion, part of the pathway moves toward a different result. Another enzyme helps guide the reaction. It is called lacrimatory factor synthase. The word lacrimatory means tear-making. Synthase means an enzyme that helps build a specific molecule. This enzyme helps turn the unstable sulfur compound into propanethyl S oxide, the onion's main tear-causing vapor. That name sounds long, but the action is simple enough to picture. The damaged onion makes a tiny molecule that can escape into the air. Propanethyl S oxide is volatile. Volatile means it easily changes into a vapor and drifts away from its source. A chopped onion releases more of it than a whole onion, because chopping exposes far more broken cells to the air. A sharp knife may crush fewer cells than a dull one, so the reaction can feel slightly less intense. Cold onions may also sting less for some people because cooler temperatures slow chemical reactions and reduce how quickly vapors move into the air. Once the tear-making molecule leaves the onion, it does not need to travel far. The eyes sit only a short distance above the cutting board. A person leaning over the onion places the face directly in the rising path of the vapor. The front of each eye is covered with a thin tear film, a clear layer of fluid that helps keep the surface smooth and moist. When propanethyl S oxide reaches that watery surface, it dissolves into it. Nerves in the eye detect the irritation. The signal travels through branches of the trigeminal nerve, a large nerve that carries many sensations from the face. The body answers by increasing tear production. Tear glands above the outer part of each eye release more fluid. Blinking spreads the tears across the eye's surface. Extra fluid dilutes the irritant and helps wash it away toward the inner corner of the eye. This is why onion tears can appear even when a person feels calm. They are a protective reflex, like blinking when dust comes near the eye. The onion has activated a defense system in the plant, and the human body has answered with a defense system of its own. The smell of onion, the sting in the eyes, the sharpness on the tongue, and the bite in the nose all grow from related chemistry. Different molecules travel to different places. Some rise into the air, some stay in the chopped pieces. Some reach the mouth when the onion is eaten raw. Together, they turn plant damage into human sensation. Flavor begins to look less like a simple pleasure and more like a conversation between a defended bulb and the senses that discover it. That sensory conversation becomes especially clear when onion is placed beside its closest kitchen cousin. Garlic has its own sharpness. A fresh clove can seem quiet, while its papery skin is still closed around it. Crush it under the flat side of a knife, and the smell changes almost at once. The clove becomes sticky, wet, and bright with aroma. Its sharpness rises through the nose and settles strongly in the mouth. Garlic belongs to the same plant genus as onion. Its scientific name is Allium sativum. Like onion, garlic stores food underground. Like onion, it protects that stored food with sulfur chemistry. The two plants share a family pattern, but their reactions do not lead to exactly the same sensory result. Garlic's most famous damaged tissue compound is allicin. Allicin forms when a garlic clove is cut, crushed, grated, or chewed. Inside the intact clove, a sulfur-containing compound called allein is kept apart from the enzyme alliinase. When the tissue breaks, alliinase reaches allein and quickly changes it into allicin. That reaction can happen in less than a minute. Freshly crushed garlic smells stronger than a whole clove because the reaction has just begun at many broken surfaces. Allicin is unstable, so it continues changing into other sulfur compounds as time passes. This is one reason garlic can smell different when it is freshly crushed, slowly cooked, roasted whole, or dried into powder. Garlic's chemistry often feels strongest in the mouth, throat, and nose. Raw garlic can seem hot, even though it is not physically warm. That heat-like feeling comes from chemical irritation. It is sensed partly through the trigeminal nerve, the same large facial nerve involved in eye irritation from onions. The brain can read some chemical signals as burning, tingling, or sharpness, even when the food's temperature is cool. Onion can also feel sharp in the mouth, especially when eaten raw. A thin slice of raw red onion on a sandwich can send a bright bite into the nose. A chopped yellow onion can leave a strong smell on the hands. Yet onion has a special strength in the eyes because its damaged cells are especially good at producing the tear-making vapor called propanethyl S oxide. That vapor leaves the cut surface easily. It reaches the wet tear film. The eyes respond with stinging and extra fluid. Garlic has related sulfur defenses, but a crushed clove usually sends its strongest warning through smell and taste, rather than tears. A person can mince several cloves of garlic and feel the sharpness in the nose without the same steady crying that often comes from chopping a large onion. The difference comes from the pathway the chemistry follows after damage. In both plants, stored sulfur compounds meet enzymes. In garlic, that path strongly favors allicin and the later compounds that grow from it. In onion, part of the pathway is guided toward the lacrimatory factor, the tear-making molecule. Small differences in stored molecules, enzymes, water content, and tissue structure can change the whole human experience. The allium family holds many gentler examples. Leeks have long white bases and flat green leaves, with a flavor that becomes soft and sweet in soup. Chives grow as narrow green tubes, often cut fresh over potatoes, eggs, or salads. Scallions, sometimes called green onions, are harvested young, before a large round bulb has formed. These plants still carry allium chemistry, but the balance feels milder. Their tissues are arranged differently. Their sulfur compounds appear in different amounts. Their water content, age at harvest, and growing conditions all shape the final flavor. A leek slowly cooked in butter does not behave like a smashed garlic clove. Fresh chives do not sting like a storage onion chopped into small pieces. The family resemblance remains, but the sensory effect changes from plant to plant. This makes the onion easier to understand. Its power is part of a shared allium design, shaped into a very particular form. Garlic brings heat and depth. Leeks bring softness. Chives bring a fresh green edge. Onion holds a stronger link between broken cells, rising vapor, and watery eyes. Even within onions, that link can shift. One bulb can bite sharply enough to make a cook step back from the board. Another can taste mild, juicy, and almost sweet when sliced thin. The chemistry is shared, but its strength is never perfectly fixed. A yellow storage onion can announce itself before it ever reaches the pan. Slice through a firm yellow bulb from a winter pantry, and the smell can rise quickly, sharp enough to fill a small kitchen. Its flesh may feel dense under the knife. Its layers may hold together tightly. A thin, raw piece can bite the tongue and send a bright edge into the nose. A sweet onion used in a salad or sandwich can feel very different. A Vidalia onion from southeast Georgia, a Walla Walla onion from Washington, a Maui onion from Hawaii, or a Texas sweet onion may taste mild enough for thicker raw slices. The texture can seem juicier. The flavor may feel rounder and less harsh. That difference is partly why sweet onions are often used fresh, where their mildness can stay visible. The word sweet can be a little misleading. Many sweet onions do contain sugars, but their mild character often comes from lower pungency and higher water content. Pungency means sharpness, bite, or irritation. In an onion, pungency is closely tied to sulfur chemistry. A highly pungent onion can make more strong-smelling compounds after its cells are cut. A milder onion may carry those reactions with less force, so the sugar and water in the bulb become easier for the mouth to notice. This is why sweetness in an onion is partly a matter of balance. The tongue is not only measuring sugar, it is also experiencing how much sulfur bite stands in front of that sugar. Yellow onions are often the dependable storage onions of kitchens and grocery stores. They can be strong raw, but they soften beautifully with heat. White onions tend to have a cleaner, sharper flavor, and are common in salsas, fresh toppings, and many Mexican dishes. Red onions bring purple-red pigments, a crisp raw bite, and a color that can turn brighter pink when soaked in acid, as in pickled red onions. These color groups are useful, though they do not tell the whole story. A red onion can be mild or sharp. A yellow onion can be gentle after cooking and intense when raw. Variety, growing region, harvest timing, curing, and storage all shape the final bulb. Farmers grow storage onions and sweet onions with different goals. A storage onion is meant to last. Its dry outer skins should hold well. Its neck should cure tightly. Its tissues often contain higher solids, meaning more material left behind after water is removed. Higher soluble solids can make an onion feel denser and can support stronger flavor and longer storage. Sweet onions are often sold as a fresh seasonal crop. They usually contain more water, which gives them that juicy mildness. The same water also makes them more delicate. They bruise more easily, mold more easily, and usually cannot sit for months in a cool pantry the way a strong storage onion can. Soil also matters. Onions take up sulfur from the ground through their roots. In places where available sulfur is lower, and where farmers select mild varieties, onions can develop less pungency. Vidalia onions became famous partly because of a regional combination of mild varieties, sandy soils, climate, and careful marketing from Georgia growers. The name Vidalia is tied to a defined growing area in Georgia, centered around the town of Vidalia and nearby counties. Walla Walla sweet onions have their own protected identity in Washington's Walla Walla Valley. These onions are not simply generic mild onions with famous labels. They are crops connected to particular regions, seasons, and rules. Water changes the experience too. A wetter onion dilutes some of the compounds that create sharpness. A drier, denser onion can carry a stronger flavor in each bite. Storage then changes the bulb again, because water slowly leaves, tissues age, and chemical reactions continue at low levels after harvest. The onion in a grocery bin has a history inside it. The seed line chosen by a breeder, the soil minerals available to the roots, the length of the growing season, the water it received, the way it cured, and the time it spent in storage. Sharpness becomes a record of biology and farming. The same sulfur chemistry that decides whether an onion stings the eyes also helps decide whether it tastes bright, sweet, harsh, mellow, or deep. Once those compounds enter food, they raise a quieter question. The substances that shape onion flavor do not vanish when the onion is swallowed. They continue into the body, where people have long wondered whether this sharp bulb does more than season a meal. That journey through the body begins with the onion's own chemistry. For thousands of years, people have treated onions as more than flavor. They have been placed in soups, stews, breads, sauces, broths, and preserved foods because they are useful, strong, and easy to combine with other ingredients. In many traditions, onions have also carried a reputation as a strengthening food. That reputation has a real scientific doorway, though it needs careful handling. An onion is an ordinary food with active plant compounds inside it. Those compounds can be studied in cells, in animals, in human diets, and in long-term eating patterns. The strongest claims require the strongest evidence, so the most honest path begins with the chemicals themselves. One important group is called organosulfur compounds. Organo means carbon-containing, and sulfur is the element that helps give onions, garlic, leeks, and chives their sharp smell. These compounds are part of the same larger chemical world that creates the onion sting when cells are cut. Some appear quickly after damage. Some change during cooking. Some continue breaking down during digestion. Their exact form depends on the onion variety, the growing soil, the temperature of cooking, and the amount eaten. A second group is called flavonoids. Flavonoids are plant compounds found in many fruits and vegetables. They often help plants handle sunlight, stress, injury, and attack from microbes or insects. In onions, the best-known flavonoid is quercetin. Quercetin often appears in onions as quercetin glucosides. A glucoside is a compound with a sugar part attached to it. That sugar attachment can change how the compound dissolves, moves, and becomes available during digestion. Yellow and red onions are especially connected with this part of the story because their colored outer layers can hold meaningful amounts of flavonoids. Flavonoids belong to a wider family called polyphenols. Polyphenols are plant-made chemicals with ring-shaped structures that can interact with reactive molecules. A reactive molecule is a molecule that can easily take part in chemical reactions, sometimes in ways that damage cells if the body's balance is disturbed. This is where the word antioxidant appears. Antioxidant activity means a compound can interact with reactive molecules under certain conditions. It does not mean that eating one food scrubs the body clean. The human body already has its own antioxidant systems, including enzymes and small molecules that help manage normal chemical stress. Food compounds may support that larger system as part of a varied diet. Inflammation needs the same careful language. Inflammation is the body's response to injury, infection, or irritation. It can be useful and protective. It can also become harmful when it stays active in the wrong way for too long. Some onion compounds have been studied for effects connected to inflammatory pathways, which are the chemical message routes that help cells respond to stress. Those studies can be interesting, but the result of eating onions depends on much more than one molecule. Dose matters. A few thin slices of raw onion in a sandwich are different from a concentrated extract. Preparation matters. Raw onion, boiled onion, fried onion, roasted onion, and dried onion powder can all contain different amounts and forms of the same original compounds. Digestion matters as well. Stomach acid, gut enzymes, liver processing, and gut microbes all change food compounds before the body uses or removes them. The whole diet matters most of all. An onion eaten with beans, lentils, tomatoes, olive oil, fish, bread, rice, or meat becomes part of a larger meal. Over months and years, patterns of eating are easier to connect with health than a single ingredient on one plate. This gives onions a grounded kind of importance. Their value does not need to come from exaggerated promises. A bulb can be worth studying because it contains organosulfur compounds, flavonoids, fructans, and other plant metabolites. A metabolite is a small chemical made or used by a living thing. Fructans are fermentable carbohydrates, meaning they can be broken down by gut microbes after human digestion leaves some of them behind. Each group leads to a different part of the onion's health story. Among them, quercetin offers the clearest place to begin. It can be seen through the onion's color, traced into its outer layers, and followed from plant protection into human nutrition. A red onion shows part of this chemistry before the knife reaches its center. The color is strongest near the outside, where the dry skin and the first fleshy layers have faced the most light, air, handling, and stress. A yellow onion carries its own signal in the golden brown tunic and pale yellow outer rings. Those colors come from plant pigments and related protective compounds, built while the onion was growing leaf by leaf in the field. Quercetin belongs to a group called flavonols. Flavonols are one branch of the larger flavonoid family. Flavonoids are small plant-made compounds that can help with color, sun protection, stress response, and defense against some microbes and insects. They are common in many foods, including apples, berries, tea, kale, broccoli, and onions. In an onion, quercetin is especially useful to study because it is often more concentrated near the outside of the bulb. The dry skin can hold far more flavonoid material than the juicy inner rings. The outer edible layers often hold more than the pale center as well. That pattern makes sense for a plant. The outside of the bulb is the first part touched by soil, light, drying air, small wounds, and microbes. Protective compounds placed there help guard the storage tissue beneath. This is one reason the parts people peel away can still matter scientifically. The papery skin is too tough and dry for most everyday eating, yet it can be rich in plant chemicals. Food scientists have studied onion skins as a possible source of natural colorants, extracts, and flavonoid-rich material, especially because processing onions creates large amounts of peel waste. Yellow onions are often notable sources of quercetin. Their color may look modest beside a red onion, but the yellow-brown outer layers can carry high flavonol levels. Red onions add another pigment group called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins are red, purple, and blue plant pigments also found in foods such as blueberries, red cabbage, black rice, and purple corn. They can shift color when acidity changes. That is why sliced red onion often turns a brighter pink when soaked in vinegar or lime juice. The acid changes the chemical environment around the pigment molecules, and the visible color changes with it. White onions show less visible pigment, although they are still onions with sulfur compounds, carbohydrates, and other plant metabolites. Their paler color usually means fewer of the pigments that make red and yellow onions stand out. A white onion can still be sharp, useful, and biologically active as food. Color gives clues, while the full chemistry depends on the variety, the soil, the season, and the part of the bulb being measured. Quercetin itself is often present in onions as quercetin glucosides. A glucoside has a sugar part attached. That sugar attachment changes how the compound behaves in water and how the body handles it after eating. When onion tissue is chewed and digested, enzymes and gut microbes can help separate or transform these compounds. The result is more complicated than a simple path from onion slice to bloodstream. This is where antioxidant language needs a calm explanation. During normal life, the body makes reactive molecules. Some appear when cells use oxygen to release energy from food. Others appear during immune responses, exercise, pollution exposure, or ordinary stress inside tissues. Reactive molecules can be useful in small controlled amounts because cells use them as signals. In excess, they can damage fats, proteins, or DNA. Antioxidant activity means that a compound can help interact with some reactive molecules or influence the systems that manage them. The body already has strong built-in systems for this work, including enzymes with names like superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. Food compounds such as quercetin may support parts of that larger balance, especially as part of a steady diet with many plants. A test tube can show that quercetin reacts with certain molecules under controlled conditions. A human body is warmer, wetter, more complex, and constantly changing. Digestion breaks compounds apart. The liver modifies them. The kidneys help remove many breakdown products. Gut microbes can change what reaches the body in the first place. So the color near an onion's outer layers is a real clue, and quercetin is a real compound worth following. Its journey through a person depends on preparation, digestion, dose, and the rest of the meal around it. A meal changes every compound it carries. A slice of onion may contain quercetin, sulfur compounds, fructans, water, sugars, minerals, and many smaller plant chemicals. After chewing, those materials enter a body that is warm, acidic in the stomach, enzyme-rich in the small intestine, crowded with microbes in the colon, and connected to the liver through blood flow. That makes food science careful work. A useful compound inside an onion is the beginning of a health question. A clear health effect in a person takes more evidence. Researchers often begin with cell studies. Cells can be grown in dishes and exposed to onion extracts, quercetin, sulfur compounds, or other isolated materials. This kind of experiment can show whether a compound affects inflammation signals, oxidative stress, enzyme activity, or cell growth under controlled conditions. The weakness is dose. A cell in a dish may receive a concentration much higher than a person would reach after eating onions with dinner. The compound may also touch the cell directly in a way that would never happen inside the body, where digestion, absorption, liver processing, and removal through urine all change the picture. Animal studies add another layer. A mouse, rat, or other lab animal has a full digestive system, organs, blood, hormones, and immune cells. That makes the experiment more lifelike than a dish of cells. Animal studies can measure changes in blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation markers, tumor growth, or gut microbes. Their results still need caution because animals digest foods differently from humans. A dose based on body weight can also be much larger than a person would normally eat as part of a meal. Human research brings the question closer to everyday life. Observational studies follow people and look for patterns. Researchers may compare groups who eat more allium vegetables, such as onions and garlic, with groups who eat less. They may track heart disease, certain cancers, diabetes risk, body weight, or other outcomes over years. These studies are useful because they include real people living real lives. They also carry many tangled details. People who eat more vegetables may also exercise more, smoke less, eat more fiber, drink less alcohol, or have better access to medical care. Researchers can adjust for those factors, but daily life can never be measured perfectly. An association means two things are linked in the data. It does not prove that one simple ingredient caused the whole result. Controlled human trials are stronger for testing cause and effect. In a trial, one group may receive an onion extract, onion powder, quercetin supplement, or a set amount of onion in food, while another group receives a comparison treatment. Researchers may measure blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, inflammatory markers, or antioxidant capacity before and after. These studies can be valuable, especially when they are carefully designed. They also often use concentrated extracts or powders, which behave differently from chopped onion in soup, salsa, stew, or salad. A capsule of quercetin is easier to measure than a family meal. The meal may matter more over a lifetime. Onions are rarely eaten alone. They are cooked with tomatoes, beans, lentils, eggs, fish, chicken, beef, rice, potatoes, olive oil, butter, spices, or bread. They may appear in a small amount every day, or in a large amount once in a while. A person's overall pattern of eating can shape health more strongly than one vegetable in isolation. That is why careful language matters. Onion compounds have been studied for possible links to blood pressure, inflammation markers, metabolic health, and cancer risk. Evidence may suggest a role. A food may support a healthy pattern. A connection may be associated with better outcomes. Those phrases keep the science steady. They leave room for real promise without turning the onion into medicine. This care does not make onions less interesting. It makes them more interesting in the right way. Their chemistry enters a living body through many gates, and each gate changes what the compound can do. The stomach breaks food apart. The small intestine absorbs some molecules. The liver modifies many compounds before they circulate widely. The kidneys filter waste. Farther along, the large intestine receives the parts of onion that human enzymes have not fully broken down. That place gives the onion's health story a clearer, more visible mechanism. Certain onion carbohydrates pass through the upper digestive tract and become food for microbes living deeper inside the gut. Inside the large intestine, the onion enters a different kind of food web. This part of the digestive tract is much lower than the stomach and small intestine. By the time food reaches it, many proteins, fats, simple sugars, vitamins, and minerals have already been broken down or absorbed. Yet onion still carries materials that human enzymes handle only partly. One important group is called fructans. Fructans are chains of fructose, a simple sugar found in many plants. The word chain matters because the sugars are linked together in a way the human small intestine does not fully break apart. A small sugar molecule can be absorbed easily. A longer fructan chain travels farther. It passes through the stomach. It moves through the small intestine. Then it reaches the large intestine, where trillions of microbes live in warm, low oxygen conditions. These microbes include bacteria from groups such as Bifidobacterium, Lactobacillus, Bacteroides, and many others. Each group has its own tools for breaking down food remains. Some gut bacteria can use fructans as fuel. When microbes break down carbohydrates without oxygen, the process is called fermentation. Fermentation may sound like something that happens in bread, yogurt, sauerkraut, or wine, but a related process also happens inside the colon every day. Microbes take carbohydrates that human cells left behind and turn them into smaller products. Some of those products are gases. Some are short-chain fatty acids. A short-chain fatty acid is a small acid molecule made by microbes when they ferment fiber-like carbohydrates. The main examples are acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Acetate is often made in the largest amount. Propionate can travel to the liver and take part in metabolism. Butyrate is especially important to the cells lining the colon because those cells can use it as a source of energy. This is one reason fructans are often called prebiotics. A prebiotic is a food compound that feeds helpful microbes or supports their activity. The onion does this quietly. A piece of onion may be chewed in a salad, cooked into soup, or softened in a stew. Hours later, part of its carbohydrate structure can become food for bacteria living far beyond the place where taste first happened. That makes the onion's health story more physical and easier to picture. The benefit does not come from a single dramatic effect. It comes from a chain of small exchanges. The plant stores carbohydrates in its bulb. A person eats the bulb. Human digestion removes what it can. Microbes receive what remains. Those microbes ferment the fructans and release new molecules into the gut environment. Short-chain fatty acids can help keep the colon lining supplied with energy and may take part in signals connected to inflammation, appetite, and metabolism. The exact effect depends on the person's microbiome. The microbiome is the community of microbes living in and on the body, especially in the gut. No two people carry exactly the same community. Diet, age, medication, illness, travel, stress, and long-term eating habits can all shape which microbes are common. A person who regularly eats many plant foods may have a different microbial response than someone who rarely eats fermentable fibers. The amount of onion matters as well. A few cooked pieces in a soup may pass gently. A large raw serving can deliver a heavier load of fructans all at once. Preparation changes the experience too. Cooking softens onion tissue and changes flavor, while the fructans remain mostly in the onion pieces. Boiling can move some water-soluble compounds into the cooking liquid. Eating the broth may still carry them along. Fermentation has another side. When gut bacteria break down fructans, gas can form. Hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and sometimes methane may be produced, depending on which microbes are present. Gas can stretch the intestine and create pressure. For many people, that feeling is mild. For others, especially people with sensitive digestion, onion can cause bloating, cramps, or discomfort. The same carbohydrate that feeds microbes can become difficult when fermentation happens quickly or in a gut that reacts strongly to stretching. This gives the onion a more balanced place in the body. Its fibers can support an inner ecosystem. Its chemistry can also ask more from that ecosystem than every person comfortably handles. A sensitive gut can make an onion feel very different from the way it looks on a nutrition chart. The same bulb that carries flavonoids, sulfur compounds, and fermentable carbohydrates may also bring pressure, cramps, or a swollen feeling after a meal. That does not make the onion bad. It shows how personal digestion can be. A food enters one body gently and enters another body as a challenge. The difference often begins with a group of carbohydrates called FODMAPs. The full name is fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. That long phrase describes several kinds of small carbohydrates that can be poorly absorbed in the small intestine. Fermentable means gut microbes can break them down. An oligosaccharide is a short chain of sugar units linked together. Fructans, the onion carbohydrates that feed microbes, belong to that oligosaccharide group. Onions and garlic are two of the most common high fructan foods in everyday cooking. They appear in soups, sauces, salad dressings, marinades, spice mixes, broths, stews, and restaurant meals. A person may eat onion without seeing obvious pieces of it, because onion powder and garlic powder are used so widely for flavor. For most people, fructans pass through the small intestine and reach the large intestine without causing serious trouble. There, bacteria ferment them and produce short-chain fatty acids and gases. In a more sensitive gut, the same process can feel stronger. Fructans can draw water into the intestine. That extra water can change the movement and stretch of the gut. When bacteria ferment those fructans, gases such as hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and sometimes methane can build up. Stretch-sensitive nerves in the intestinal wall can notice that pressure. The result may be bloating, gas, cramping, or diarrhea. Some people feel symptoms within a few hours. Others notice patterns only after repeated meals, especially when onion is combined with other fermentable foods, such as wheat, beans, lentils, apples, pears, or certain dairy products. This reaction is often an intolerance. A true food allergy involves the immune system reacting to a food protein, sometimes with hives, swelling, wheezing, or more serious symptoms. Onion reactions can rarely involve allergy, but the common digestive problem is usually connected to fermentation, water movement, and gut sensitivity. That distinction matters because an intolerance can depend heavily on dose. A small amount of cooked onion in a soup may be manageable. A large serving of raw onion in salsa, salad, or a sandwich may be too much. The gut is responding to quantity, timing, and the rest of the meal. Cooking changes texture and sharpness, but it does not simply erase fructans. Fructans dissolve in water. When onion is boiled in soup, some can move into the broth. When the broth is eaten, those carbohydrates may still travel through digestion. Oil behaves differently. Fructans do not dissolve well in oil. This is why onion-infused oil can carry onion flavor, while leaving most fructans behind, as long as the onion pieces are removed. The oil can pick up fat-soluble aroma compounds from the onion. Those aroma compounds help create the familiar smell and flavor. The fructans mostly remain in the onion tissue because they prefer water. This small kitchen trick shows how specific onion chemistry can be. Flavor and digestive effect do not always travel together. A person sensitive to onion may still enjoy onion-like aroma through properly prepared infused oil, while avoiding the part most likely to ferment heavily in the gut. The onion's health story becomes more careful here. It cannot be reduced to one claim for every person. In one body, onion fructans may feed microbes in a helpful way. In another, they may create enough gas and stretch to make the meal uncomfortable. Both experiences can come from the same real mechanism. Long before anyone named fructans, FODMAPs, gut microbes, or short-chain fatty acids, people had already learned that onions were powerful foods. They planted them, stored them, traded them, cooked them, and carried them across regions where a durable bulb could help turn simple ingredients into a meal. The usefulness of onions reaches farther back than the words people later used to describe them. Their beginning is difficult to place with certainty, because a bulb does not preserve like a stone tool, a clay pot, or a carved bone. A dry onion skin can vanish quickly. A fleshy bulb can rot back into soil. Small seeds can be scattered, burned, eaten, or overlooked in ancient layers of earth. For that reason, the earliest onion story is partly biological and partly archaeological, built from plant relatives, old trade routes, ancient food remains, and the places where wild alliums still grow. The domesticated bulb onion, Allium cepa, has no single wild ancestor that everyone accepts as the clear starting point. Many crop plants have close wild relatives that still grow in fields or hillsides near their first farming regions. The onion is harder to trace. Its likely beginning is often placed somewhere across a broad region of Western or Central Asia. Some accounts point toward Central Asia. Others point toward the area around Iran, Afghanistan, and Western Pakistan. Nearby mountain valleys, dry plains, and ancient travel corridors all held wild allium species with bulbs, strong smells, and useful underground storage organs. This uncertainty makes sense. People were gathering useful wild plants long before they were writing down crop names. A forager moving through a dry hillside could notice a plant with a sharp smell when its leaves or bulb were bruised. The green tops might be eaten fresh. The bulb might be carried back to a camp. The flavor would have stood out among grains, roots, seeds, and meat. A small amount could change a plain food into something stronger and more memorable. Wild alliums would also have offered practical advantages. A bulb is naturally compact. It can be pulled from the ground, carried in a pouch or basket, and stored for a time if it stays dry enough. Strong flavor means a little can affect a larger meal. The plant can grow in open, sunny places where seasonal rain or snowmelt gives it a chance to build storage tissue before the dry part of the year. For early farmers, those traits mattered. A plant that returned from a bulb produced seeds and added flavor to stored grains or stews had reasons to be kept close. Domestication would not have needed to happen in one clean moment. People may have gathered wild alliums first. Later, they may have replanted bulbs near settlements. Seeds from useful plants could be saved. Larger bulbs, milder flavors, stronger storage skins, or dependable growth would be favored, without anyone knowing the word genetics. Each season of choosing and replanting could slowly shift the plant. Over many generations, the onion would become more suited to human fields and human kitchens. Movement helped blur the trail. Onion seeds are small and light. Bulbs are portable enough to travel with herders, traders, migrants, and armies. A family carrying food from one valley to another could carry an onion without thinking of it as crop history. A trader moving between towns could bring seeds along with grain, cloth, metal tools, dried fruit, or spices. As farming spread through Western Asia, the Eastern Mediterranean, and nearby regions, useful alliums could move with it. The onion's value came from several traits working together. It stored better than many leafy greens. It flavored food more strongly than many roots. It could be eaten raw, boiled, roasted, dried, or cooked into other dishes. Its sharpness discouraged some pests while attracting human attention. Its bulb held the plant's future growth in a form people could also eat. Long before anyone knew about sulfur compounds, fructans, quercetin, enzymes, or lacrimatory factor. They could observe the practical results. The onion lasted. The onion traveled. The onion changed the taste of food. By the time larger cities, temples, written records, and organized states appear more clearly in the ancient world, onions are no longer just useful wild plants at the edge of memory. They begin to appear as provisions, offerings, symbols, and everyday ingredients in places where human history becomes easier to see. In the ancient world, onions became easier to see when people began leaving records in stone, paint, clay, and preserved tombs. Egypt gives the clearest picture. Along the Nile, farming depended on the yearly flood cycle, irrigation basins, and fields of grain, flax, vegetables, and fruit trees. After floodwater spread silt across the valley, farmers could grow crops in soil renewed by the river. Onions fit well into that world because they were compact, flavorful, and easier to store than tender greens. By the time pharaohs ruled from cities such as Memphis and later Thebes, onions had become part of daily life. They appeared in meals, offerings, and burial settings. Ancient Egyptian art often shows food arranged for the living and the dead: bread, beer, fish, ducks, cattle, grapes, figs, and vegetables. Among those foods were alliums, the plant group that includes onions, garlic, and leeks. These plants mattered because a small amount could change the taste of a larger meal. A pot of lentils, grain porridge, fish, or stew became more satisfying when sharp bulbs and green leaves were added. For laborers, farmers, soldiers, sailors, and household workers, that practical value was important. A durable vegetable could travel better than something delicate. It could be packed, portioned, stored, and cooked with staple foods. Ancient Egypt is often linked with onions in a symbolic way as well. The round shape and layered structure may have suggested wholeness, order, or renewal to some Egyptians. That interpretation should be handled gently, because ancient symbols were not always explained in one simple way. Still, onion remains and onion images have been connected with Egyptian tombs and ritual spaces. Food placed with the dead was part of a larger belief that life continued after burial, and that the person would need nourishment in the next world. In that setting, an onion could be both a real food and a meaningful object. Its layers, its strong smell, and its ability to sprout again from stored tissue would have made it noticeable to people who watch plants closely. The same everyday plant also moved through the wider Mediterranean and Near East. In Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers supported cities such as Uruk, Ur, Babylon, and Nineveh, farmers grew grains, dates, legumes, and garden vegetables. Clay tablets from the region record food, rations, trade, and temple supplies. Onions, leeks, and garlic belong to the kind of strong-flavored crops that could support cooking in dense towns and organized households. They help turn stored staples into meals with scent and bite. In the Eastern Mediterranean, Greeks and later Romans also knew alliums well. Greek writers mentioned onions, garlic, and leeks in food and medical contexts. Roman cooks used alliums with herbs, oil, vinegar, grains, fish sauce, meat, and vegetables. The Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder, writing in the 1st century of the Common Era, described many cultivated plants, including onions and their relatives, as part of the agricultural knowledge of his time. Across these regions, onions gained value through overlap. They were food for ordinary households. They were provisions for workers and travelers. They were strong enough to season plain staples. They were hardy enough to matter in storage systems. A city could not depend only on foods that spoiled quickly. Large populations needed grain stores, dried legumes, salted foods, oil, wine, beer, root crops, bulbs, and other ingredients that could survive time. Onions helped in that practical world. They could be harvested, cured, moved in baskets or sacks, and added to meals long after the green plant had left the field. Their importance came from biology meeting human need. The bulb stored the plant's reserves. People used those reserves for their own kitchens. The sharp chemistry that defended the onion became flavor in the pot. The layers that helped the plant survive a season became a vegetable that could help people bridge one harvest to the next. For onions to spread across such different landscapes, farmers had to do more than save bulbs and seeds. They had to learn, slowly and by experience, that this plant listens closely to the length of the day. That listening happens through light reaching the leaves. An onion field may look simple from a distance, with green shoots standing in rows above the soil. Below the surface, the young plant is deciding when to stop putting most of its effort into leaves and begins swelling the base into a bulb. Soil, water, temperature, and plant age all matter. Day length has a special role. The scientific word is photoperiod. Photo means light, and period means a span of time. Photoperiod is the length of daylight and darkness during a 24-hour day. For an onion, that daily rhythm can decide whether the plant forms a strong bulb or stays mostly as leaves. This is why onion varieties are often described as short day, intermediate day, or long day types. A short day onion begins bulbing when daylight reaches roughly 10 to 12 hours. These onions fit lower latitude regions where winter and early spring days are mild enough for growth, but summer days never become extremely long. Many onions grown in the southern United States belong to this group. Vidalia onions in Georgia are a familiar example, because they grow in a region where mild winters and suitable day lengths allow the plants to form bulbs before intense summer heat arrives. Intermediate day onions often begin bulbing with roughly 12 to 14 hours of daylight. They fit middle regions where the season sits between southern short day conditions and far northern long day summers. Long day onions usually need about 14 to 16 hours of daylight before they bulb well. These varieties are important in northern areas where summer days stretch late into the evening. Places such as the northern United States, southern Canada, northern Europe, and other higher latitude farming regions can give long day onions the extended light they need. The difference comes from the plant's leaves. Leaves are more than green panels for making sugar. They also sense the light environment. Inside plant tissues are light-sensitive proteins that respond to changes in daylight and darkness. These signals help the onion judge the season. When the plant has enough leaves, enough growth, and the right day length for its variety, chemical messages move through the plant. The base begins to swell. Sugars made in the leaves are carried downward. The leaf bases thicken into fleshy storage layers. The onion starts building the round bulb people recognize. A mismatched onion can struggle. A long day onion planted too far south may wait for a day length that never comes at the right time. It may grow leaves without forming a good bulb before heat, stress, or disease catches up with it. A short-day onion planted too far north may receive its bulbing signal too early, while the plant is still small. It can make a little bulb before it has enough leaves to fill it well. The result may be a small onion, because the plant began storage before it had built enough green machinery to feed that storage. Farmers and gardeners learn this pattern through seed catalogs, local experience, and sometimes disappointment. The same packet that works beautifully in Georgia may perform poorly in Ontario. A variety that makes large storage onions in New York may fail to bulb properly in Texas. The onion is tied to latitude because latitude shapes the yearly pattern of daylight. Near the equator, day length changes only modestly across the year. Farther north or south, summer days become much longer and winter days much shorter. The onion reads that pattern without thought. Its leaves receive light. Its internal signals change. Its bulb begins when the plant's inherited timing matches the sky above it. This makes an onion field a quiet calendar. Each row of green leaves is responding to a season written in hours of light. The bulb below the soil is the physical result of that timing. Once the plant has taken light, water, minerals, and carbon from the air and gathered them into a swollen storage organ, human work enters again. A bulb that forms well still has to be lifted from the field, dried at the neck, protected from moisture, and kept from rotting or sprouting before it reaches a kitchen. Harvest begins when the onion plant shows that its field season is closing. The green tops bend over, soften, and begin to dry. Farmers often watch this carefully because the falling tops show that the bulb has finished most of its swelling and the plant is moving toward dormancy. Dormancy is a resting state, where growth slows and the bulb waits for better conditions. A fresh onion lifted from the soil still contains living cells. Its base can still grow roots. Its center can still send up a green shoot. Its tissues still hold water, sugars, minerals, and enzymes. That living quality is what makes storage both useful and difficult. A harvested onion has to remain alive enough to stay firm, while becoming dry enough to resist rot. The first step is curing. Curing means drying the onion after harvest, so the outer layers tighten and the neck closes. The neck is the narrow area where the leaves once rose from the top of the bulb. If that neck stays wet and open, fungi and bacteria can enter more easily. A dry neck acts like a sealed doorway. The outer scales also dry into the papery tunic that protects the onion during storage and shipping. In warm, dry weather, onions may cure in the field for several days. In wetter regions, they may be moved undercover, into sheds or curing rooms, where air can circulate around them. Airflow matters because trapped moisture encourages decay. An onion pile with poor ventilation can hold damp air between bulbs. That moisture creates better conditions for molds and bacteria. A single soft or bruised onion can become a starting point for rot, especially if its neck or outer skin has been damaged. Temperature matters as well. Warmth can speed respiration, the slow process where living cells use stored energy. Too much warmth can also encourage sprouting. Very damp air can lead to mold and soft rot. Good storage usually means a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, with bulbs kept away from standing moisture and heavy bruising. The goal is to slow the onion's life without freezing or killing it. Even a well-cured onion has a clock inside it. dormancy does not last forever. After weeks or months, depending on variety and conditions, the center of the bulb can begin to grow again. A green shoot may push upward from the top. Small roots may appear from the basal plate. The stored food that once made the onion valuable in the kitchen begins feeding the plant's next growth. At that point, the bulb softens, loses quality, and changes flavor. Storage onions are bred and handled to delay that moment. Pungent yellow onions often store well because they tend to have drier outer skins, tighter necks, and higher solids. Solids are the parts of the onion left after water is removed, including sugars, fibers, minerals, and other compounds. A higher solids onion often feels denser and can keep longer under proper conditions. Sweet onions follow a different path. A Vidalia, Walla Walla, Maui, or Texas. Sweet onion is prized for mildness, juiciness, and fresh eating. That higher water content helps make it pleasant raw, yet it also shortens storage life. Many sweet onions are best used within weeks or a few months, depending on handling and refrigeration. A strong storage onion can last much longer in the right environment. This difference shaped how onions entered human life. A vegetable that can be cured and kept after harvest becomes more than a seasonal ingredient. It can sit in a cellar through cold weather. It can travel in a sack, basket, crate, truck, or ship. It can reach markets far from the field. It can be chopped into soup months after the green leaves that made it have disappeared. Storage turns the onion into a bridge between one growing season and the next. The bulb begins as a plant's reserve. After harvest, curing, and careful keeping, it becomes a human reserve as well. That storage power helped carry onions from gardens into trade routes, military provisions, city markets, restaurant kitchens, dehydrated flakes, frozen diced vegetables, and powdered seasonings. A small round bulb, once built to survive underground, could now move through a food system far larger than the field where it grew. That larger system can be measured by the shipload, the warehouse, and the harvest report. A single onion on a counter may weigh only a few ounces. Across the world, onions and shallots together are produced in amounts above 100 million tons per year. A ton is a metric unit equal to 1,000 kilograms, or about 2,200 pounds. That means the global onion crop is counted in billions of individual bulbs, spread across fields, markets, storage sheds, trucks, ships, restaurants, factories, and home kitchens. International crop records often group onions and shallots together. Shallots are close relatives of onions, usually smaller, often divided into clusters and valued for a milder, more delicate flavor. The shared category makes sense for food statistics because both are allium crops grown for their bulbs and used in many of the same ways. Even with that grouping, the scale is striking. Onions are among the world's most important vegetable crops, sitting near the top of global vegetable production, along with tomatoes, cucumbers, cabbages, and other everyday foods. China and India are usually among the largest onion-producing countries. Their harvests matter because both countries have large populations, large farming regions, and deep culinary traditions built around onions and related alliums. In India, onions are central to countless dishes, from slow-cooked gravies to street foods, lentils, rice dishes, chutneys, and pickles. A sudden rise in onion prices can become a national concern because the bulb is tied so closely to daily cooking. In China, green onions, scallions, garlic, leeks, and bulb onions all appear across regional cuisines, from stir-fries and dumpling fillings to broths, sauces, and aromatic bases. Other major onion-growing regions include the United States, Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan, Iran, Bangladesh, Mexico, the Netherlands, and parts of Spain. Each region grows onions for different purposes. Some fields produce dry bulb onions for storage. Some produce sweet onions for fresh seasonal sale. Some grow green onions or scallions, harvested young for their leaves and pale stems. Some grow shallots for markets that want a smaller, richly flavored bulb. The form changes with the food system around it. A dry yellow onion might be cured and stored for months before it reaches a grocery store. A bunch of green onions may move quickly from farm to market because the tender leaves lose freshness faster. A shallot may be sold in small mesh bags for sauces, dressings, and careful cooking. A red onion may be sliced raw for salads, tacos, sandwiches, and pickling. The onion also travels after it has been transformed. Factories peel, slice, dice, freeze, dry, grind, and package onions in many forms. Frozen diced onion is useful because it saves time and keeps a prepared ingredient ready for soups, stews, sauces, and large kitchens. Onion powder and onion flakes begin with dehydration. Dehydration removes much of the onion's water, lowering weight and making the product more stable on a shelf. Fresh onions are mostly water, so drying them can shrink a large amount of raw material into a much smaller amount of flakes or powder. That powder can then move into spice blends, snack seasonings, soup mixes, sauces, canned foods, frozen meals, and restaurant supplies. The biology of the bulb makes this possible. An onion is already built as a compact storage organ. Its layers hold flavor, water, sugars, sulfur compounds, minerals, and plant tissue in a shape that can be harvested and handled. The dry tunic helps protect the bulb. The cured neck helps slow entry by microbes. The dense form makes it easier to pack than loose leaves or soft fruit. Once dried or frozen, the onion becomes even easier to move through long supply chains. This is why a plant that began as a defended bulb underground now appears in so many kitchens at once. It can be grown in many climates when the right day-length type is chosen. It can be cured after harvest. It can be stored, shipped, sliced, dried, powdered, frozen, cooked, pickled, or eaten raw. Its sharpness is strong enough to matter in small amounts, which makes it valuable even when used as a background ingredient. The onion's global scale comes from that combination of durability and change. It can wait quietly in a pantry, then become active again the moment a knife opens its cells. It can cross oceans as powder, sit in a freezer as diced pieces, or arrive fresh from a nearby farm with dirt still clinging to the roots. The same bulb that stores well also transforms deeply under heat. That transformation is part of the reason onions have traveled so far, because cooking can turn their sharp defense into softness, sweetness, and the warm smell of a meal beginning. A raw onion carries its defense into the kitchen air before cooking ever begins. Freshly sliced onion can sting the eyes, brighten the nose, and leave a sharp taste on the tongue. Those sensations come from volatile sulfur compounds. Volatile means the molecules can escape easily into the air. Sulfur compounds are part of the onion's damaged tissue chemistry, and in a raw slice, many of them remain strong enough to reach the eyes, nose, and mouth in a direct way. heat changes that path. When chopped onion enters a warm pan, the first sound often comes from water. The pieces hiss softly as moisture begins to move out of the broken cells. A fresh onion contains a great deal of water, held inside its fleshy scales. As the pan warms, cell walls weaken, internal pressure changes, and liquid moves toward the surface. Steam carries some of the harsh aroma upward. Other sharp compounds break down, drift away, or change into milder forms. The onion begins to lose its raw edge. Inside each piece, the plant structure is softening. Plant cells have walls made from materials such as cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin. Pectin helps hold plant cells together, especially in the middle layer between neighboring cells. As onion heats, pectin and other wall materials change. The pieces become less crisp. Their layers relax. A white onion slice may turn glossy and partly see-through. That translucent look is a sign that the tissue has lost some of its rigid, fresh structure, and that light is passing through the softened cells in a different way. The taste changes along with the texture. Onions contain natural sugars, including glucose, fructose, and sucrose in varying amounts. In a raw onion, sharp sulfur compounds can stand in front of those sugars, making the bite feel stronger than the sweetness. As heat drives off some harsh volatiles and water leaves the tissue, the sugar becomes easier to notice. The onion has not become candy. Its own mild sweetness has been uncovered and concentrated. Cooking style decides how far this change goes. Sweating onions means cooking them gently, often with a little oil or butter, so they soften without browning. The heat stays moderate. The pieces release water. The pan may stay moist enough that the onions become tender and pale rather than dark. Cooks use this step at the beginning of soups, sauces, risottos, stews, and many slow dishes, because softened onion gives a base layer of flavor without adding a brown taste. Sautéing usually uses higher heat and more active movement in the pan. The onion cooks faster. Edges may begin to color. Water still leaves, but the surface can become hot enough for early browning once enough moisture has evaporated. A crowded pan slows this process because many onion pieces release water at once, and the food steams before it browns. A wider pan gives the water more room to escape. Slice size matters too. Thin pieces soften quickly because heat reaches through them faster, and their surface area is larger. Thicker pieces hold their shape longer. The cut chosen by a cook changes how the onion releases water, how quickly it loses sharpness, and how evenly it sweetens. Temperature also shapes aroma. A raw onion smells piercing because some sulfur compounds reach the nose in a concentrated rush. A gently cooked onion smells rounder because the harshest vapors have weakened and the warm fat in the pan carries different aroma molecules. Butter can add milk solids and richness. Olive oil can carry the onion's softened scent through a dish. Salt can draw moisture from the onion by osmosis, the movement of water across cell boundaries toward a saltier area. That released water helps the onion soften before stronger browning begins. The transformation feels almost calm because it happens gradually. A firm, stinging bulb becomes tender. A pale, raw slice becomes glossy. A sharp smell becomes warmer and deeper. The onion's chemical defense has not disappeared all at once. It has been redirected by heat, water loss, softened cell walls, and changing sulfur compounds. With more time in the pan, the softened onion enters a deeper stage. Its sugars and amino acids begin forming new brown colors and roasted aromas. And that darker sweetness comes from chemistry more complex than the simple word caramelized. In the pan, the first limit is water. A fresh onion is mostly water, so sliced onion has to lose a great deal of moisture before it can brown deeply. At the beginning, the pan may hiss and steam. The pieces slide against one another, pale and wet, while liquid gathers and evaporates. As long as the onion surface stays very moist, much of the heat goes into turning water into vapor. That keeps the surface temperature lower and slows the chemistry that creates brown color. This is why a crowded pan can delay browning. A large pile of sliced onions releases water from many cut surfaces at once. The pieces steam together, soften, and shrink before their edges darken. A wider pan spreads the onion out. More surface touches hot metal. More steam escapes into the air. Once enough water leaves, the onion surface can become hotter, and deeper browning begins. The word caramelized is often used for this whole change, especially when onions turn soft, brown, and sweet. Part of that word is useful because onions do contain sugars. Glucose, fructose, and sucrose are all present in different amounts, depending on variety and growing conditions. Caramelization is the breakdown of sugars under heat. As sugar molecules change, they form new colors and flavors, moving from simple sweetness toward nutty, toasted, and slightly bitter notes. In pure sugar, caramelization can happen clearly at high temperatures. In an onion, the process is mixed with water, acids, minerals, sulfur compounds, and plant tissue. So the change is more gradual and more complex. Another important process is the Maillard reaction. The name comes from Louis-Camille Maillard, a French chemist who described this kind of browning in the early 20th century. The Maillard reaction happens when reducing sugars react with amino acids. A reducing sugar is a sugar that can take part easily in this kind of browning chemistry. Amino acids are small building blocks used to make proteins. Onions contain both sugars and amino acids, so their browning can involve Maillard reactions as well as sugar breakdown. These reactions create many new flavor molecules. Some smell roasted, some smell savory. Some add a deeper sweetness. Some help build the brown color on the surface of the onion pieces. This is part of why long-cooked onions can taste so different from raw onions, even though they began as the same bulb. Time matters because the reactions unfold slowly, when heat is gentle. A cook making deeply browned onions may stir for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or longer, depending on the amount in the pan and the heat used. Higher heat can speed browning, but it can also burn the edges before the centers soften. Lower heat gives water time to leave and sugars time to concentrate. Stirring spreads heat and keeps pieces from sticking in one place too long. Salt can draw out moisture early, helping the onion soften, while also changing how quickly liquid gathers and evaporates. Slice thickness changes the path. Thin slices expose more surface area, so water escapes faster, and browning can happen across many edges. Thicker slices keep more moisture inside and may hold their shape longer. A fine dice can melt into a sauce. Long half moons can collapse into silky strands. The cut determines how the heat reaches the tissue and how the onion finally feels in the mouth. the change in volume can be surprising. Several cups of sliced onion can become a small, dark mass at the bottom of a pan. Much of the lost size was water leaving as steam. Some structure softened. Some sugars and amino acids became concentrated in a smaller amount of food. The sharp, raw smell faded into something warmer, heavier, and more rounded. A pale storage organ became a dark seasoning, rich enough to flavor broth, bread, rice, meat, beans, or soup. This transformation shows how much humans learn to do with onion chemistry. Heat can soften the bulb and deepen its flavor, yet heat is only one method. Across many kitchens, people also learn to change onions with vinegar, salt, dryness, fermentation, and oil, turning the same sharp plant into foods that could last, travel, and taste different from the fresh bulb that came out of the soil. Vinegar changes an onion in a different way from heat. A thin slice of red onion dropped into vinegar begins to soften at the edges while its color brightens. Within minutes, the purple layers can shift toward pink. That visible change comes from anthocyanins, the red and purple pigments found in red onions. Anthocyanins respond to acidity. In a more acidic liquid, their shape and color can change, so the onion looks brighter even before its texture has softened very much. Vinegar preserves by lowering pH. The letters pH describe how acidic or basic something is. A lower pH means a more acidic environment. Vinegar contains acetic acid, the compound that gives it its sour taste and sharp smell. Many spoilage microbes have a harder time growing in a strongly acidic liquid. So a jar of sliced onions, vinegar, salt, and sometimes sugar becomes safer and longer lasting than raw onion left open on a counter. Salt adds another kind of control. When salt touches onion tissue, water moves outward by osmosis. Osmosis means water moves across cell boundaries toward the place with more dissolved material. The onion softens as water leaves its cells. That released liquid mixes with the vinegar and seasonings, helping make a brine around the slices. A red onion that once stung the eyes becomes crisp, sour, bright, and easier to add to tacos, sandwiches, salads, rice bowls, beans, fish, or roasted vegetables. Fermentation can preserve onions through a living process. In a salty brine, certain bacteria can grow, while many unwanted microbes are held back. Helpful lactic acid bacteria feed on sugars and produce lactic acid. That lactic acid lowers pH over time. The flavor becomes tangy and deeper than vinegar alone, because the acid is produced slowly by microbes living in the brine. Fermented onion is part of the same broad preservation world as sauerkraut, kimchi, and sour pickles. The plant's own sugars become food for bacteria, and the bacteria help change the environment around the onion. Drying takes another path. Fresh onion holds so much water that microbes can use its tissue easily if the bulb is cut and left damp. Dehydration removes that water. Without enough available moisture, many bacteria, yeasts, and molds cannot grow well. Onion flakes and onion powder begin as onions that have been peeled, sliced or chopped, then dried with warm air or other controlled methods. Once dry, the pieces shrink, become lighter, and keep far longer than fresh chopped onion. Grinding dried onion turns it into powder, where a small spoonful can season soup mix, spice blends, roasted potatoes, snack foods, sauces, marinades, and frozen meals. Drying changes flavor too. Some fresh sharpness fades. Some sweetness and savory depth become concentrated. The powder still carries allium character, but its behavior in food is different from a raw slice. It spreads quickly through liquid, clings to oil or seasoning, and gives onion flavor without the texture of onion pieces. Frying uses heat and water loss together. Thin onion slices dropped into hot oil lose moisture quickly. Steam escapes from the surface. The tissue dries, stiffens, and becomes crisp. As water leaves, browning reactions move faster. Sugars and amino acids help build toasted colors and warm aromas. Fried onions can become golden strands on green bean casserole, crisp toppings for rice and lentils, or dark sweet edges in a pan of slowly cooked food. Oil also carries aroma compounds in a way water cannot. The flavor spreads through the fat, which then coats other ingredients. Each method changes the onion by controlling one part of its chemistry. Acid lowers pH. Salt pulls water from cells. Drying removes moisture needed for microbial growth. Fermentation lets selected bacteria make acid slowly. Frying drives off water and builds brown flavor. Across many kitchens, people learn these changes by practice long before they explain them with chemistry. A sharp bulb could become sour, crisp, sweet, dry, powdered, golden, soft, or deeply browned. The onion's defenses were never the end of its story. They became raw material for human skill. After so many ways of softening, preserving, and intensifying it, the onion leaves a deeper puzzle behind. People kept choosing a plant that could sting the eyes, bite the tongue, and fill a room with sulfur aroma. And somehow, that sharpness became part of what made it desirable. The answer begins inside the senses. Onion flavor is a mixture of taste, smell, and chemical feeling. Taste itself comes from receptors on the tongue and in nearby parts of the mouth. Those receptors detect sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. Umami is the savory taste found in foods such as mushrooms, aged cheese, meat broth, soy sauce, and cooked tomatoes. A raw onion can give a little sweetness, a little bitterness, and a sharp edge that seems to spread beyond the tongue. That sharp edge comes from another sense called chemesthesis. Chemesthesis is the body's ability to feel chemical irritation, cooling, burning, tingling, or sting. It is the reason chili peppers feel hot, mint feels cool, mustard feels piercing, and raw onion can seem bright in the nose. The food may be room temperature, yet the nerves read its chemicals as heat, bite, or pressure. A key pathway is the trigeminal nerve. This large nerve carries many sensations from the face, including signals from the eyes, nose, mouth, and forehead. When onion vapor irritates the eye, branches of the trigeminal nerve help carry that warning signal. When raw onion feels sharp in the nose or mouth, the same broad sensory system helps create that feeling. The onion is reaching more than taste buds. It is touching a wider map of facial sensation. Smell adds another layer. Onion aroma comes from volatile molecules, meaning molecules that can rise into the air. Some reach the nose from the outside while an onion is being chopped. Others travel from the mouth into the nose while food is being chewed. That second path is called retronasal smell. Retro means backward, and nasal means related to the nose. During eating, aroma molecules lift from warm food in the mouth and pass up through the back of the throat into the nasal cavity. This is why flavor becomes weaker during a stuffy nose. The tongue may still detect salt or sweetness, but many detailed aromas become harder to sense. Cooked onion uses retronasal smell beautifully. A spoonful of soup may carry soft onion aroma upward after it is already in the mouth. A browned onion in rice or lentils may seem sweet and savory because smell, taste, and chemesthesis are arriving together. The body does not experience a dish as separate science categories. It receives one blended impression. Culture teaches people how to value that impression. A child tasting raw onion for the first time may find it too strong. After years of eating onion in soup, tomato sauce, dumplings, tacos, curry, stew, sandwiches, or fried rice, the same sharpness can become familiar. Repeated exposure changes what feels normal. Family cooking changes it too. A person may associate the smell of onion in hot oil with dinner beginning, or with a kitchen in a particular home. The aroma becomes linked to memory, comfort, hunger, and expectation. Cooking gives humans control over intensity. Raw onion can be sliced thin for brightness. A sweet onion can be eaten fresh for crunch. Yellow onion can be softened slowly until its harshness fades. Red onion can be pickled until acid turns it crisp and pink. Fried onion can become dark, sweet, and brittle. Each method changes the same bulb into a different sensory tool. This helps explain why humans kept choosing sharp plants. Chili peppers contain capsaicin, which activates heat-sensitive nerve pathways. Mustard and horseradish release sharp compounds that rush into the nose. Ginger carries gingerols that feel warm and spicy. Garlic forms allicin after crushing, giving it a deep sulfur bite. These foods can be intense at first, yet many cuisines learn to use them carefully. Their sharpness wakes up plain grains, beans, meats, roots, broths, and vegetables. It can make a simple food feel complete. Onion belongs in that group because its defense chemistry became part of human pleasure. The same compounds that discourage some feeders in soil can make a stew smell finished. The same vapor that makes eyes water can become a signal that food is being prepared. The same bite that feels harsh in a thick raw slice can become balanced when cut thin, salted, cooked, browned, or soaked in acid. Human preference turned onion chemistry into tradition. Modern growers and breeders have taken that tradition into the field, choosing onions for sweetness, color, storage life, yield, disease resistance, and even a gentler tear reaction. That choice now begins long before an onion reaches a kitchen. It begins in seed fields, breeding programs, storage trials, disease nurseries, and test plots, where rows of onions are watched through a full growing season. The modern onion is a selected crop. Its shape, color, flavor, storage life, and field performance have been guided by many generations of human choice. Crop breeding works by selecting heritable traits. Heritable means a trait can be passed from parent plants to their offspring through genes. A breeder may grow thousands of onion plants, then save seed from the ones with the most useful qualities. Over time, repeated selection can shift a crop toward larger bulbs, stronger skins, better color, milder flavor, or longer storage. For onions, the list of desired traits is unusually practical. Farmers want good yield, meaning many usable bulbs from each acre or hectare. Markets want uniform size, so onions can be packed, priced, sliced, and sold more easily. Shoppers often want clean skins, bright color, and bulbs without soft spots. Storage companies want tight necks, strong outer scales, and good skin retention, so bulbs lose less moisture and resist damage during handling. Cooks may want sweetness, sharpness, or deep flavor after browning. A yellow storage onion and a mild sweet onion are shaped by different priorities. Dry matter matters too. Dry matter means the part of the onion left after water is removed. A higher dry matter onion can be better for dehydration, flakes, powder, and long storage. A wetter onion may taste juicier and milder when fresh. Those differences reach all the way from the field to the factory. An onion grown for powder is judged differently from an onion meant to be sliced raw on a sandwich. Disease resistance is another major goal. Onions can be harmed by downy mildew, a disease that can damage leaves and reduce the plant's ability to fill the bulb. Botrytis neck rot can enter through the neck and cause decay during storage. Pink root affects the roots, turning them pinkish and weakening the plant's ability to take up water and minerals. Fusarium basal rot attacks the basal plate at the bottom of the bulb, the same compressed stem that once supported roots and leaf growth. Each disease can turn an onion's own structure against it, because a storage organ full of water and nutrients is also a good place for microbes to grow. Climate adds another pressure. Heat can shorten the useful part of the growing season. Drought can limit leaf growth, which limits the sugar supply moving into the bulb. Irregular rainfall can cause stress, splitting, disease pressure, or trouble at harvest, salinity, meaning too much dissolved salt in soil or irrigation water can make it harder for roots to draw in water. Breeders and farmers have to think about onions as future crops in warmer, less predictable conditions. Some modern work focuses directly on tears. Low-tear onions target the biochemical pathway that produces the onion's lacrimatory factor. That is the tear-making vapor formed after cells are cut. By selecting plants with lower activity in that pathway, breeders can make onions that cause less eye irritation when chopped. The idea is simple at the cutting board, but complicated inside the plant. The same sulfur chemistry that helps create tears also connects to flavor, aroma, and possibly some of the compounds people study for nutrition. Changing one trait can affect others. A milder onion may please someone who wants raw slices without sting. A stronger onion may store better, brown more deeply, or give a soup base more character. A bulb with beautiful skin may still need resistance to rot. A high-yield crop may still need flavor that cooks want. Even onion waste has become part of the modern story. Skins, outer layers, and processing scraps are often rich in flavonoids, such as quercetin. Researchers and food companies have studied these materials as possible sources of extracts, natural colorants, or value-added ingredients, especially because large-scale onion processing creates piles of peel and trim. The onion is still being negotiated between plant biology and human use. Its defenses are softened. Its storage is extended. Its color is selected. Its diseases are resisted where possible. Its tears are reduced in some varieties. The bulb on a cutting board now carries the whole path. Sulfur chemistry, stored energy, ancient farming, digestion, cooking, global trade, and careful breeding held together inside one layered crop. A single onion can now return to the cutting board with much more inside it than its pale rings first suggested. Its scientific name is Allium cepa, a member of the same larger plant group as garlic, leeks, chives, scallions, and shallots. The brown or purple skin around it is a dry tunic. The juicy layers beneath are swollen leaf bases. At the bottom sits the basal plate, the compressed stem that once sent roots into soil and leaves into air. That structure explains why the onion could become so useful. The bulb was built to store water, sugars, minerals, and living tissue through time. In the field, green leaves gathered sunlight and used it to make sugars. Those sugars moved downward, filling the layers that people later slice into rings. Day length helped decide when that swelling began. Short day onions, intermediate day onions, and long day onions each respond to different spans of light. So a farmer in Georgia and a farmer in southern Canada need different varieties for the same crop to form well. Once harvested, the onion still carries life inside it. Curing dries the neck and outer scales, helping the bulb resist moisture and decay. Cool, dry, moving air slows rot and sprouting. A storage onion can wait for months under good conditions, while a juicy, sweet onion often belongs to a shorter season. That ability to wait helped onions move from fields into cellars, markets, ships, factories, restaurants, and kitchens around the world. Onions and shallots are now grown in quantities above 100 million tons per year, a scale made possible by a bulb that can be harvested, cured, stored, dried, powdered, frozen, and shipped. The tear reaction that opened this journey fits into the same design. A whole onion keeps important chemical ingredients apart inside its cells. A knife breaks those compartments. Sulfur-containing compounds meet the enzyme alliinase. Unstable sulfenic acids form. Lacrimetry factor synthase helps create propanethyl S-oxide, the volatile tear-making molecule that rises into the air. When it reaches the wet surface of the eye, nerves detect irritation, and the tear glands release fluid to dilute and wash it away. That sting belongs to plant defense. The onion protects stored food with chemistry that becomes visible only after damage. The same bulb also carries compounds that made people wonder about health long before modern laboratories gave those compounds names. Colored onions can hold flavonoids such as quercetin, especially in the outer layers and skins. Red onions also contain anthocyanins, pigments that can shift toward bright pink in acid. These compounds can be studied for antioxidant and inflammatory pathways, though their real effects depend on preparation, digestion, dose, and the rest of the diet. Onion health is best understood as part of a pattern of eating, rather than as a single dramatic promise. Fructans add another layer. These fermentable carbohydrates can pass through the small intestine and reach the large intestine, where microbes break them down. That fermentation can produce short-chain fatty acids, such as acetate, propionate, and butyrate. It can also produce gases such as hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane. For some people, onion supports a microbe-rich diet. For others, especially those sensitive to certain fermentable carbohydrates, the same process can bring bloating or discomfort. The onion does not act the same way in every body. Heat gives the bulb another future. A raw slice can sting and bite. A warm pan softens cell walls, releases water, and reduces harsh volatile aromas. Natural sugars such as glucose, fructose, and sucrose become easier to notice as water leaves and sharpness fades. With more time, browning begins. Caramelization changes sugars. The Maillard reaction lets reducing sugars and amino acids build deeper color and roasted flavor. A heap of sliced onions can shrink into a small, dark, sweet mass because so much of the fresh bulb was water. Human hands learn to keep changing it. Vinegar lowers pH and brightens red onion. Salt draws water from cells. Drying makes flakes and powder. Fermentation lets lactic acid bacteria change the brine. Frying drives off water and builds crisp browned edges. A defended storage organ became seasoning, sweetness, aroma, and comfort in countless meals. The next time a knife enters an onion, the tears can be understood as more than irritation. They are the visible trace of broken cells, sulfur chemistry, ancient selection, careful farming, human appetite, and kitchen heat meeting inside one small layered bulb.